Chandler Parsons, former NBA player, saddle up, ready to join us now live as we've been talking about a lot of things today. You know, it's funny, Chandler. I look at the Knicks, and I'm thinking, okay, when's this thing going to end? I mean, Brunson's hurt. OG's hurt. Randall's out. Mitchell Robinson. And I'm like, okay, these guys can't keep playing 45 minutes. And then I watched them last night, and they won even easier than they won in game one. And it's a guy that played in this NBA for a decade. It's almost collegiate. Like they're punching above their weight every other night. Are you surprised by the Knicks?
I'm surprised just because there's so much talent in the league this year. And when I look at the New York Knicks roster, I don't think they have the most talented roster, right? Jalen Brunson, and I think partially because of Julius Randle going out and the injuries that's happened and the moves they've made, that has really opened up Jalen Brunson's game. I mean, he's playing at an absolute superstar level. There's not many players still playing that are playing better than Jalen Brunson right now, which is insane because he wasn't this prodigy. He wasn't this, for sure thing. Cubes could have had him for $55 million. That's probably one of the biggest botches in his career, and I'm sure he'll tell you that. But when you look at the Knicks, it's a classic Thibodeau coach team, Colin. They're not the most talented. It's not the prettiest game, but man, they grind you, they defend, they play hard. Josh Hart has kind of reinvented himself by doing the same things he's always done, but now he's doing it on the Knicks, and now he's doing it in the playoffs in Madison Square Garden, and he's finally getting the respect and love someone like that deserves just for his versatility and his toughness and his defense. And you can't speak enough about the Knicks before you get to Jalen Brunson, and he's been an absolute star. He's been their everything. But when you got guys like DiVincenzo and Hartenstein and Deuce McBride, I'll be honest with you, I work in the industry of media. I just found out about Deuce McBride this season. So are the minutes crazy? Can they sustain that? Yes. They've been blessed with pretty good health with those main guys. Obviously, they had Randall. Mitchell Robinson's been out. Hopefully, OG's not a serious injury because they can't really replace what he gives them. But they just outwork you. And in the NBA, Colin, that's half the battle is playing hard and buying into defense. And they do both, which is going to give you a chance to win every single night.
So I had said I grew up in the 70s where there were a bunch of good teams but no dynasties. From that point until about 5 years ago, the league had dynasties. One in San Antonio, Jordan, Magic, Bird, Shaq, Kobe, whatever. And now I look at it and I'm like, I'm not sure who the best team is. Denver's getting dragged. I mean, this fight's over. Like, this fight feels like it's over. And my takeaway is I'm surprised. It's one thing if Denver would have lost in 7. But they're getting bullied. And I thought a year ago, these are the next Spurs. Are you surprised how completely lopsided Minnesota-Denver is?
I am. I mean, my preseason picks were Denver versus Boston. I think those were the two best teams, the two most poised teams to win right now. Phoenix was interesting. I was curious about them. The Clippers with Kawhi healthy early on, that was interesting. But when you look down to it, I never really trusted the Minnesota Timberwolves. I'm going to be honest. I never really trusted the youth of the Oklahoma City Thunder. As well as they played in the regular season, playoffs are different. You always hear this physicality, the intensity, every possession matters. Minnesota and Oklahoma City are playing better now than they did during the regular season. So, yeah, I think when you look at this matchup, you look at an offensive juggernaut like the Nuggets, like Jokic, and you look at the best defensive team we've seen in quite some time. And we're looking at the best defensive team during the regular season, the best defensive team during the postseason. Now you combine that with Anthony Edwards doing the things he's doing, Karl Anthony Towns having big offensive games. They're committed to their roles. And when you have a star like Anthony Edwards, it's just such a refreshing guy. It's such a happy two-way player. Most star players don't do what he does. They don't give the same effort on both sides of the floor. So when you have that mismatch of length, and you have guys like Naz Reid that have absolutely blown up this year and Sixth Man of the Year, and you have guys like Jaden McDaniels that don't care to shoot. He doesn't care to score. He just wants to defend. They follow the scouting report. The way that they've guarded Jokic in this series is beautiful, where they kind of play him one-on-one with a Naz Reid, but then you have the Defensive Player of the Year and Rudy Gobert floating. They're active. Their length. They are bullying him. There's a clip, you probably saw it, where Alexander Walker is legitimately laughing while he's guarding Jamal Murray, just cutting him off, being physical, and they love it. And it's crazy. I did not see this coming. I made a joke after the game one. I was like, damn, can you imagine if the Nuggets get swept? It could happen, which is crazy. Also, Denver's so good offensively, and if they continue to get stuff from Michael Porter, who's been great, Jamal Murray's got to be better. He's got to be more efficient. But as soon as they win game 3, I think everyone shifts to, okay, now what happens? I think the series is far from over, but it is super impressive what Minnesota's done on both ends of the floor.
I had a GM tell me this 20 years ago. It's not about getting a star. It's about getting the right star who may sacrifice touches, who will defend, who will be the first guy in the weight room. There's a lot of great players, this GM told me, but it's the right star. Tim Duncan was the right star. And this is not a knock on Luka, but if I was an NBA player and could play with Tatum or Luka, I'd play with Tatum, even though I think Luka is more dynamic. Ant is a guy that looks like he likes to be part of a collective, but he's great. And again, this is not a knock on Lua, it's his game. His usage rate is through the roof. And there are times, I think there are players that are like, bro, if I don't get touches, it's hard. And now, because of a usage rate, Chandler, he's hobbled. I mean, you play now because he's playing defense now. And I think to myself, I see usage rate as a negative from my star. He can be in the top 10, but I look at Luka's game and I'm like, of course he's breaking down. I mean, it's like Harden. Of course he's exhausted. He's a human being. What do you make of Luka at this time of the year every year?
Well, it is funny that we praise a superstar for playing defense just because he's so good on offense. The fact that he's now giving effort. I will say this. I think this team that Luka has, this is his best team. I love the moves that they made. I love the P.J. Washington move. I love the Daniel Gafford move. And I even said this earlier on Run It Back on our show months ago when they did this. I said, it's got to be pretty exhausting playing with Luka because you get stuck watching him. Your offense gets stagnant because he's so talented and he's so good offensively that sometimes – you do get frustrated as a teammate because he's taking these long, low percent step backs. But when he makes them, it's like, holy shit, this guy's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But then when he has a night like he did in game 1, it's like, okay, couldn't we get a better possession here? In the game, can we get a better look here? And we have a guy like Kyrie Irving too. I think they could offset the pressure and take a little bit more off him. But I do think the Dallas Mavericks are a better team when everybody's contributing, when they're getting something from Tim Hardaway, when they're getting 15 from P.J. Washington. It's hard to say it'd be tough to play with Luka. I mean, Daniel Gafford literally just almost set a record for the most consecutive, spoon-fed buckets in the history of the NBA. So I'm sure he would disagree with that. But it's crazy how much talent, how much turnover there's been with these star players. Like we were talking about Luka, we're talking about Jason Tatum. I feel like we're talking about Jalen Brunson. We're talking about SGA. We're talking about Anthony Edwards more so than those guys. So I think the league talent-wise is in great position. And I do agree with you where I do think it can get a little exhausting playing with these ball-dominant, high usage rate guys. But it is on him to take better shots. It is on him to get his teammates easy looks. And then when he is buying on the defensive end, when your best player like Anthony Edwards is playing defense, that fuels your team. That fuels your locker room. So I do think they're a better team when Luka obviously commits to that end. But you can't take away from his talent on the offensive end. He's a generational talent. And he's unbelievable. But I think he just settles a little bit. I think he forces. I wish he'd lay off the refs a bit. But he's an unbelievable talent.
Yeah. By the way, a couple minutes left. When Rick Carlisle last night blamed small markets, I kind of rolled my eyes. Because most of the big cities, Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, New York have been garbage for years. It's small markets have carried the league. But do players, when a call doesn't go their way and a LA or a New York team are winning, do they think some of them is rooting for the big markets? Do players think like that?
A little bit, like in the play-in tournament, the Lakers were in there. We kept saying, "Oh, the NBA wants the Lakers in the playoffs. The NBA wants the Warriors in the playoffs." So there's definitely part of that. This season, Rick's my guy. I played for him for 2 years. It doesn't make sense because the Oklahoma City and the Minnesota Timberwolves are arguably smaller markets than the Pacers, and they're dominating, and they're getting calls, and they're playing physical, and they're setting the tone. So I agree that being a referee, Colin, is the worst job in the world. No matter what, every time you blow that whistle, there's 20 people pissed at you that think you made the wrong call.
Right.
And when you slow it down, I'm also the replay thing. It's a whole other story, but that pisses me off too because when you slow down every possession in an NBA game, the refs probably missed 3 calls in that possession that weren't called. So, yeah, of course, when you slow it down in HD, it looks like they did a horrific job. I think as a coach and a player, all you want is consistency. All you want is the same physicality, the same hand check, the same over the back. You want that called throughout the 48 minutes of the game. And when that doesn't happen, and when it doesn't happen at the end of the game, it's more magnified and it pisses you off more. So are the Pacers losing this series because the refs? No, they're getting outworked. The Knicks are playing harder. They have no answer for Jalen Brunson. Halliburton wasn't very good until last night. So that's the reason. But it's not the referees.
Yeah. Chandler Parsons, give your podcast a plug, your show a plug here real quick.
Yeah, so we're on year 2 of Run It Back. It's me, Michelle Beadle as our hosts. We got Shams Charania dropping all the tea and the scoops. I still don't know how he gets all that info. And then my co-host is Lou Will, legendary sixth man. So it's called Run It Back. We're on FanDuel, 7 a.m. Pacific time, Monday through Friday. So you got to check us out. We got to get you on the show.
I'm very busy, but I'll come on and say hi. I know you and Beads. Good seeing you, buddy.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.